I'm not going to try to prove why climate change is happening. This is more just looking at what climate change deniers say and evaluating their claims. I don't find anything they say convincing, and I'm just going to give some basic reasons why. So what do they deny? You'll see a lot of different things. The stuff on the left is more stuff I'll focus on, which is you'll see some people, less now, actually deny the Earth is warming. I'll even show you some tricks they'll use. And some say we're cooling, actually. This is kind of funny, but they do say it. Some deny that cause is anthropogenic, and this is where you can get into a lot of arguments, because, I mean, science isn't 100% certain, and they'll try to use this certainty against you. Some people deny that climate change is a bad thing, and a lot of them will say it's a good thing. Like plants, they love CO2, right? But at that point, you're just ignoring all the other problems. You're focusing on the good thing and ignoring other problems. And the stuff on the right is just really, they might agree with, they might say climate change is real, but they're just like, oh, we shouldn't do anything about it. China's not doing anything about it. Why should we? But, I mean, I'm not really going to address that, but it's just an aspect of this. Now, some of their motivations. I've debated a couple of them on the internet, not really that much. Not really debated, just left comments on message boards and stuff. But a lot of them just seem really resistant to change. They don't really, they don't really want to believe it. They think about its consequences to business, and they don't really want to feel responsible. It's pretty simple. They just really don't want to believe it. So they even craft some of these global warming conspiracy theories, which are kind of funny. I'll get into some of them later, well, if I have the time. And this is their basic approach to science. As I said, they don't want to believe it, so they have their conclusion ahead of time, and they want to find facts to support it. It's the same thing as the creationist method. I'm sure some people have seen this before, but it's basically the same thing. They know the conclusion. They want to find the facts to support it, instead of having the facts and trying to make a conclusion like the actual climate scientists do. Now, if someone actually showed you this plot, and this is real data, this actually is real data. I actually presented this to a climate scientist before, and he was like, this is real? And I said, yes, this is 100% real. I took it from NOAA, but there are a couple things that are misleading in this. What if someone told you, oh, look, temperature's decreasing. Look at 1998. Look at that. Look how high it is. It's lower now. This is actually March 2010. But, I mean, you can just look at it and say, it does seem kind of like there's a decreasing trend. But there are a couple things that are misleading. First off, it's actually increasing if you make a straight line fit through it anyway. So it's kind of a mental trick. You can actually see if you draw a line from the peak to where it is now that it kind of seems plausible that it might be decreasing, but it's not. And the second thing I did here was 1998 was it was 1998 was the peak year for a long time. Like if I show this right before, like if I choose anything right before 1988, it really low or low compared to this. So it's cherry picked, and that I think turns into this. Yeah, characteristics of most arguments. I mean, when I presented this before, I just wanted to make it like a general skepticism thing. So these apply just basically for everything. And a thing you'll see a lot with global warming deniers is cherry picking, like this. There's a reason I chose this. That's because it's misleading. So you choose the data towards your preconceived notions, as seen previously, and I'll show it again. Factual errors and fabricated data, I'll show that too. Confusion of correlation and causation, I won't really talk about that, but you'll see a lot of, like, some people will show these papers published in mathematical journals say, oh, look, it fits the data. But it's completely an abstract concept that has nothing, it's not based on any physical laws or anything. It just happens that this mathematical model does fit the temperature data, but it's not based on physical stuff. Incorrect understanding of math and/or science, that pretty much goes with confusion of correlation and causation, because they don't understand that you basically have to start with these first principles and then develop your climate model from there, and that these little mathematical abstractions aren't really useful. And use of non-peer-reviewed sources or interpretations, that people have already gone into why that's bad. Here's the so-called solar argument, and the basic claim is solar forcing is the primary factor controlling the climate. So climate change is natural, and we can do nothing about it. So they're not really denying that it happens. They're just saying that the sun causes it. Don't read the second bullet yet. But this is very PowerPointy, since I wanted to distribute it to some people before. But basically, why this is wrong is you can just look at this plot. Solar irradiance is pretty much constant. I mean, this is anthropogenic stuff. And look, it's increasing. I mean, it's just Obviously not true, but they don't really claim that it's solar irradiance. They claim that it's sunspots. So I talked to climate scientists. He actually said this is plausible, but the climate model doesn't indicate that this is what's happening. So basically, clouds can have a cooling effect on the climate. You obviously block the sunlight, it's not reaching the Earth. Cosmic rays promote cloud formation. I don't really know the mechanisms behind this, but they do. And solar activity, especially sunspots, prevents cloud formation. So basically, if there's less, I didn't exactly look over this before this, but basically they're claiming that the solar activity just causes this. And it's a variation of this. And as I've shown here, this is comparing different forcings. And the solar one just really isn't doing anything. But this anthropogenic forcing, this is going off the charts. And the other ones are pretty much constant. Volcanic aerosols, you'll hear people talk about that stuff too. And I don't know what the first one is. Oh, that's El Nino. So basically, they'll show some plots of this too. On the left, this is a plot from an anti-global warming documentary called The Great Global Warming Swindle. And I want to point out a couple things that are wrong with this just immediately. On the right's the scientific paper it came from, or the plot from that. You can notice a couple things here. The solid line's temperature, but the actual points, there's some sort of thing that's related to the sunspots. Notice immediately that there's a spot here where there's no data, but they just made it match perfectly what the temperature thing said in the anti-global warming documentary. So that's just straight up fabrication right there. So that doesn't really help them. But I mean, that's their claim. But there's also another thing that's going on here too. You notice that they're only showing up to 2000. There's a reason for that. That's because the correlation breaks down after that, because there wasn't really it was just a coincidence. And another thing that was a problem too, if I recall correctly, this orange one is the actual thing. To actually get this sort of close correlation, they had to do some data smoothing to it. So it was really processed data. You had to really force it to fit it. So at that point, it's just garbage. So just to reiterate, they had fabricated data in there. You needed to smooth it to get this correlation. And the correlation broke down at a certain point. Like, here's temperatures, and here's what they said caused it, and not really linked. And here's some basic conclusions. The real take-home message is that this agreement was actually an artifact of the data processing and cherry-picking data and fabricating it. And here's another thing you'll hear a lot. This one doesn't really make any sense to me, but I hear it all the time. So I'll just go into it. The so-called medieval warm period. Now, there actually was a medieval warm period. I mean, you'll see them cherry-pick sources where it actually shows it hotter than now. But now notice this is actually 2000. It's actually gone off the charts since then, of course. But and now it's definitely warmer than any time in the medieval warm period, as I'll show later. But you'll see them pick sources like this one, Moberg, and this is from a IPCC report in 1990, where it shows it warmer than now. But I think this was 1987 or something like that up here. So it's obviously increased since then. But that's not even the main point you should take. See, this shows that it's increased since then. This is a meta-analysis by Mike Mann at his so-called hockey stick plot. It's got a bunch of stuff in here. You can look at other things, and I mean, it's quite clear that today is warmer than any time during the medieval warm period, no matter what you cherry pick in this. But that's not even important. The medieval warm period could have been warmer than now, but this says nothing about whether we are causing climate change now.
Another thing I've heard is that the medieval warm period was really only warmer in Europe. Yeah, it wasn't global.
Yeah, it wasn't a worldwide thing. In fact, some of these are from certain areas, so that's one reason there's some variability here. It was a largely European thing, but I think it's worth noting that it doesn't matter, because we could still be causing the warming now, regardless of whether there's this medieval warm period. The fact is, we have a pretty good understanding of what causes this stuff, and I recall from discussions with this climate scientist in this class, they understand what was happening. It was just I can't recall it right now because I'm not a climate scientist, but they understand it, and it's not what's causing warming now. Okay, now I actually will have time to. Okay, I'm actually doing pretty good on time. Maybe I've gone too fast. So I wanted to spend a long time with ClimateGate because I think this is really funny, and it's just I think it's the biggest non-scandal scandal there is because I don't really understand what went wrong. It's just really blown out of proportion. So if you don't know what ClimateGate was, it's when these hackers about a year ago copied thousands of emails and other documents, computer code, from the University of East Anglia's Climatic Research Unit, CRU, and I'll use the abbreviation UEA for University of East Anglia. They're a pretty big organization in climate change, and they have a lot of climate scientists that produce a lot of data for the IPCC reports and stuff. And the basic claim, as I already mentioned, is that these emails prove that climate scientists suppressed dissenting opinions, fake data, withheld data from climate change skeptics or deniers, or whatever they prefer to call themselves. And some even say that these emails prove that climate change is a hoax. And I mean, I haven't seen that, and I'll show you why. Now, this is a little bit more about quote mining, because that's really what's going on here. You take a quote out of context. You not even understand the context. You usually collect them in this long list, and what's his name? Senator Inhofe, whatever his actual name is, has a list of them that I've actually found useful in producing this. You don't know the context. You don't really know what's going on, and it's just misleading. You should examine it in full. And there's something I wanted to put here. This is Rove's law from Karl Rove, which is never say anything that you wouldn't want reduced to a 3-second soundbite in the news. And that's what happened here. That basically, even though it was in private, it could be reduced to a 3-second soundbite in the news. And people aren't going to examine it any further. They're going to be like, wow, that really says something. But yeah, I'm going to go immediately into some of these specific ones. You'll see this a lot. Now, if you see the trick here, don't say it. Now, it says this. This is from an email from Phil Jones, who's one of the guys who's really investigated. He's like the head of CRU. He said, I've just completed Mike's nature trick of adding the real temps to each series for the last 20 years, i.e. from 1981 onwards, and from 1961 for Keys to hide the decline in global temperature since then. Now, this is what climate change deniers read. But that's actually not what was written. After you remove your climate change denial goggles, you see that some of it actually wasn't referring to a decline in global temperatures. It was referring to something completely different. This is what they wanted to read. See, they think they knew the conclusion before they even read it. They knew there had to be a conspiracy, and they're just trying to find evidence of it. But yeah, I removed the quotes from real and removed in global temperature since then. This is what actually said. And this is the website I took it from. I don't know if these guys are climate change deniers or what, but they have like all the emails there in some searchable format, and it's pretty interesting to look at. So what are they not understanding here? So they assume that it refers to some nefarious plot to, I don't know, fake data or something, and they didn't actually look at the meaning or context. And as I said, the deniers knew what the emails meant before they even read them. So I don't remember why I had that graph there, but what height of decline actually refers to. This so-called divergence problem. You can use different proxies to determine temperature in the past, and one of the ones they used was tree rings. The problem with this is that there is a pretty good agreement with temperature up until about 1960 when pollution and other things made it worse. This is the divergence problem. This is the decline. You see the decline here? It's declining. It's not temperatures that are declining. This is temperatures. This is the tree ring apparent temperature that's declining. So basically, the problem is we shouldn't use this data because it's known to be bad. And we have a pretty good idea why it is. I think it's still kind of controversial. I'm not a climate scientist, or I guess this isn't really climate science. This is dendrochronology or whatever it's called. But maybe not. But yeah, but we understand that this is bad data. So climate deniers think that we should continue to use bad data, I guess. I don't know. But yeah, this really, it just shows that they're kind of ignorant and they just want to read it in, they have a certain agenda. It really just shows what it is.